Enlightenment Unit, Lesson 2. Our next reading is pages 105 to 110, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, plus the vocabulary. We will be doing a fishbowl on Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Rousseau, so you need to make sure that you read the Thomas Hobbes and John Locke portion of the text. Isaac Newton and Rene Descartes, this is from your reading, pages 98 to 104 in your textbook. This is the vocabulary. Again, you should have those in your notebook in the Freyer model. Define it, examples, non-examples, and an illustration. Our objectives are the same from the first lesson, and it's to place the Enlightenment in the historical context and contrast the period with the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Tell how Isaac Newton explained the workings of the universe, and explain why Descartes is considered the father of modern philosophy. Okay. What is the main idea of Newton's Principia? Okay. Principia, so this is Newton's work that he did, his main work, and what is the main idea? So you should have gotten this from your reading, okay? So you should be able to answer this question. There are basic laws of nature that are true for the whole physical world. That is the physical world, the things we can touch and feel and see. These laws could be discovered through observation and reason. So that's that scientific method, that's watching things and observing things and testing it and using reason to be able to describe it. Okay, so here's a picture of the book, and this is an important book in math, and it's still used. You will see his principles that come from this text in math classes and in physics classes as you continue to go. And here's another one on his information that he comes up with. How did Newton's work in science influence thinking in other areas of life? So how did his work in science influence how people thought about things in other areas of life? His works encouraged people to not accept ideas on faith, but to question and search for answers. So this goes again to their reaction against getting all of their information from the church. So they are starting to question these ideas, and this comes from being influenced by Newton's work in science. His work was based on observation and reason. So you can observe and use reason in other aspects of your life, not just in science, but in other parts of your life. And people started using that as well. Try to think of some examples of how you could use observation and reason in other parts of your life. And here's a picture of Isaac Newton. This is a portrait, of course. What was one thing Descartes was certain of? Take a minute, think about that. Write it down in your notebook. What was one thing he was certain of? Got it? Okay. His thoughts were his own, and they proved his existence. So because he thought, that proved that he existed. If he didn't have any thoughts, then he wouldn't exist. I think, therefore I am. So some of you may have heard this phrase before, and this is what Descartes comes up with. I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I exist. Because I think I exist. How did Descartes change the way people thought about their world? So what changes came about because of his philosophies? He showed people how to use observation and reason to find truths rather than accepting them on faith alone. So rather than accepting things in the world being, oh, that's just how the world is, he encouraged people and changed the way they thought and taught them to really question it. Why is it the way it is? Asking that question instead of just accepting it as that's the way life is. He encouraged people to question everything except for their own existence. Why would people not need to question their own existence? If you thought that because his philosophy and idea of thinking is why you exist, the very fact that you are thinking means you exist, so you don't need to question that because you are thinking about it. Why do people call Descartes the father of modern philosophy? He introduced a new way of thinking about what we know and how we know it. So his idea of because you're thinking, you exist, and you exist because of your thinking. This is a new way, and using observation to do this was a new way of doing it as well. He insisted on using reason. So again, not just accepting things happening just because that's how they happen, but using reason to understand things. To argue with a person who has renounced the use of reason is like administering medicine to the dead. So this is a quote by Thomas Paine, who is a founding influencer of the United States. And this goes back to kind of Descartes' philosophies of you can't argue with someone who's not using reason, because reason is how you learn things, and you challenge what you know, and you question what you know. If you don't question what you know, then how do you know it? Or how do you know it's right? And using reason is what Descartes really encouraged people to do. So our closing question, in your own words, define the Enlightenment. So you should have watched through the video for the lesson 1 and finishing up the video for lesson 2. In your own words, how would you describe or define the Enlightenment? Write this in your notebook along with your vocabulary that you have. I will be checking it when I check your vocabulary. So make sure that you have this definition of the Enlightenment. What does it mean to you?